Thank you for having us here this morning into a little bit of your lunchtime. I am Caroline Barker, as Liz said. Liz, congratulations on being re-elected. The last time we spoke like this, I was up here with Shani Layton in 2019, and hearing your address at the start of conference, you spoke about getting from that moment to here and the growth and the pride that you've got in your sport. And that moment was significant because post-COVID, which we've all spoken about, netball was the first professional sport, first team sport to get up and running at all levels of the game. And there should be great pride from all of you in the room for making that happen, so well done. Now we clap the board because they've all gone down there and left their chocolate up here. Thank you, Switzerland. Athletes march on their stomachs and other such things. We're going to talk about this unstoppable rise of women's sport. But when we meet again in a few years' time, the women's going to be dropped from that. We're here to talk about sport, about brilliant sports people performing at the top of their game, energy, athleticism, brilliant talkers on and off the court. If you are at home watching this, you want to engage because it's entertainment, because it's show, because you're watching those at the very top of sport. The unstoppable rise of women's sport, we are already there. Now it's about how we go forward as a sport. In a moment, we're going to hear from Kirsty Coventry, who will talk more about her journey, where she's been. I've said the journey word already, I apologize. But we're now at the point where we're going to hear from these two fearless women next to me. I say fearless because I drove here. Vanessa Marie de Toit was driving me. Don't do that again. Oh, yeah, I'm walking. They're both broadcasters, but they don't know they have to turn the microphone on first. Press the button. They're very good at broadcasting. You already know Stacey Francis-Bayman. I've just realised you put me up here with two double barrels, so I'll gain another in a moment. Both these athletes have performed at the highest level on court. They've been part of that team. They've performed for you, for me at home watching, for me at home commentating, and now they're showing their skills off court. And one of the things I hope we show through this conversation, it is a conversation, we're going to hear and have that conversation with you towards the end of this hour as well. I said an hour, you should never tell anyone how long they're going to be here. We're not going to talk about finance or rules, although Logan appointed as the finance director, yes? Yeah. Okay.
Unanimously.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that. But we will, at the end of this, there will be an opportunity for you to raise some questions as well and have that conversation with us. But we're here to talk about how we got here, what we've done on and off court as well, and where we see the future of this sport. And it's just us, our three humble opinions, but we hope from that you see that there are voices, opinions away from where you are now, from what you're doing, but they're supporting you and they want to help lift us all up. I'll introduce you two in a moment, but first, here is Kirsty Coventry with a few words.
Hi, my name is Kirsty Coventry. I am a former Olympic champion as well as medalist. I went to 5 Olympic Games. I sit on the International Olympic Committee as a member and chair of the Dakar 2026 Youth Olympic Games, chair of the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games Coordination Commission, as well as the chair of the Games Optimization Working Group. And currently in Zimbabwe, I am the Minister of Youth, Sport, Art and Recreation. In terms of women's sport globally, we're seeing all these different opportunities for women, and we also see federations taking a leadership role in that. And what I mean by that, and as we can see with netball, is they are selecting host countries globally. It's not just staying into the particular stronger countries or regions, and that's really important for the development of the sport, because when fans from different regions get access to coming to watch games live, they fall in love with the sport, they fall in love with the players, they better understand the sport, and that's something that I think netball has really done very well in. On a global context, when we look at women's sport, we're seeing federations and sporting bodies and unions really listening to what women are wanting in terms of equal pay, equal rights, and a lot of federations are now moving towards that. And that, again, it shows that fans around the world are enjoying and wanting more women's sports, and that is always going to help drive and deliver better and more unified women's sport and push development of women's sports. So my sport started, or my journey in sport started when I was really young. I loved swimming from a very tender age, and I remember watching the Olympic Games that I remember watching was the 1992 Barcelona Games. I was 9 years old, and I remember watching and thinking, I want to go and I want to do that and I want a gold medal. Not really knowing, what goes into that, but just having that dream. And my parents have always been very supportive, which I'm very lucky about. And so they took me and I joined a swim club, and I loved it. As I said, I started young. I started swimming at the age of 2. My mum and my grandfather taught me how to swim, and I just had a love for the water. And that grew stronger. I qualified for my first Olympic Games when I was 16 years old, and I competed at the Sydney Olympics in 2000. My highest place finish was 12th, and you can say I got the Olympic bug. I had a little bit of a taste. I got to watch incredible athletes win medals for their countries. Being the first games that I attended in Sydney, Australia, where swimming is just loved. It's like soccer for most of us here in Africa, or netball. And I think it really just inspired me, and I wanted to keep going. So I was fortunate to get a scholarship to America, where I started training in 2001, and just loved it. Loved the environment that I was in, being in a very competitive environment, competing weekly, things I hadn't had the opportunity of doing in Zimbabwe. And that led me to Athens in 2004, where I ended up winning a gold, silver, and bronze medal, which was incredible. First Olympic medals for Zimbabwe in over 20 years at that point. And so that was really fun. It was a huge experience. I loved every minute of it. And again, wanted to come back in 2008 and have a replica of that. The goal had been to try walk away with 4 golds. I walked away with 1 gold and 3 silver in 2008. But, the opportunity that sport gave me was an education, something I'm not sure I would have been able to do if I hadn't have got a full scholarship. It has given me the opportunity to travel the world, to experience different cultures, all things that not every day job can give you. And so I was very fortunate to turn into a professional athlete and get that exposure, get that experience, get that education. And that then led me on to wanting to continue to swim and train. And I went through the London Olympics in 2012, placing 6th. I got injured, unfortunately, right before. That teaches you a whole nother world of aspect of perseverance when you get injured so close to a big game, a big match. But again, I was in the right space where I had a huge supportive team. I had an incredible physiotherapist that got me back to being somewhat healthy, to at least allow me to compete. That took me on into my last Olympics in 2016 in Rio, where really the goal for me was to end on my own terms. I wanted to walk away a healthy athlete, which not many athletes get that opportunity. Their careers are sometimes cut short from various different reasons, and I was really blessed that I was able to walk away on my own terms. And through that, through that career in 2010, I got introduced to the International Olympic Committee and the movement as an athlete representative. And that helped me with the transition of being an athlete into sports administration. And that's where I really felt grounded. It's where I felt that I could be proactive. And that then led me on into life after sport, still being connected to sport. So it was really an incredible opportunity, and I'm now leading different commissions on the International Olympic Committee, the Brisbane 2032 Organizing Committee, the Games Optimization Working Group, which is looking at all things within the Olympic family and movement on how do we become more sustainable. And it's just led me down this path now into leading a ministry as a government minister. All of these things created different opportunities for me to take advantage of. One of the aspects that I've always been grateful for is I've had incredible strong women around me. My coach was a female coach who taught me that it's okay to want to achieve in your career while still achieving as a mom, as a wife, and those were really important things. I think in today's world, one of the things I'm seeing change on the sporting landscapes is that federations are putting more of an emphasis on their female athletes to allow them to have both, to allow them to compete at the highest level, as well as being a mom, as well as opening up spaces for athletes to bring their young children with them if they're still babies and still compete. And that, I think, is really important for the growth and development of our women's sport globally. We have to recognize that women are competing as they get older. They're competing while they're still wanting to start families. And as federations, we need to figure out ways of finding ways to accommodate that and to celebrate that, because I think you can have it in all in a balanced way that will improve our women's sport across the globe. So in 2016, after the Rio Olympic Games, I knew that I wanted to come back to Zimbabwe and have some impact. I had been away for the better half of 17 years. I'd always come back, but it had always been for short trips. And I knew I wanted to come back and have a higher level of impact. And so with my now husband, we started the Kirsty Coventry Heroes Foundation, where we focused on being able to give back to communities access to free sport in a way that also provided a safe space for children to come. So we worked with children between the age of 6 and 13 because we really wanted to also have an impact into their daily lives, to be able to share the skills and the values that sport has taught me, all of those soft skills that a sport teaches you when it comes to time management and balance, winning and losing, respect for each other, excelling in something, friendship. All of the Olympic values that I have loved, I wanted to give back to the community. And so we identified different communities that we wanted to start with, and the focus was, let's find community leaders that are interested in coaching. And we then paid for those coaches we focused on soccer, netball, basketball, rugby, and swimming or water safety. And we found coaches, identified coaches, and got them connected with the federations, and we paid for their training. And in return, they would offer free hours twice a week for about 4 hours each day to the community to coach the kids for free. So the kids could just come down. They knew the coaches were going to be there from 9 to 12 on a Saturday morning and one day during the week. And we would run a clinic. So we would group the kids in their ages 6 to 7, 8 to 9, 10 to 11, 12 to 13, and the coaches would run. They would all rotate, so they would each have to play all of the sports, because we felt that really it was about the experience, about coming together. And we saw huge numbers. We had close to 6,000 children come through the program in 4 or 5 months, and it was incredible. We ran the program every weekend. And when I then stepped into the ministry role, we had to slow down a little bit. I just didn't, for me, integrity is very, very important. That is something that I will never mess around with, your values and your integrity. So we slowed down a little bit on the foundation because we had a number of sponsors and really important people to me that have supported me, and with the new ministry role, it was tough to balance everything. So we're, looking now that I know exactly the commitments in my minister's role, we'll look at getting back into really fully running our foundation. We've missed it. We've missed celebrating the communities and the children and having fun with them. But it started from just me wanting to ensure that I give back to the community that has loved and supported me for so many years through my journey. That was really what was important.
Not a bad warm-up act.
Yep.
Kirsty
Are we done?
Coventry. I feel like she deserves a round of applause. I mean, if we got one, then she certainly did. Who hasn't been to multiple Olympics? Kirsty is one of those overachievers, very much like our two guests here. That's why I didn't, of course, introduce you properly right at the start, because I didn't want you to feel inadequate. Vanessa Marie is a businesswoman. She has conquered nearly everything put in front of her and will go on to conquer that and more. A South Africa international playing netball against Stacey Francis.
With Stacey.
With. Yeah, I mean, are you ever truly with her?
Yeah.
You see those arms go everywhere. And one of those people that you look to, and I say people because it's not just about being a player, one of those people you look to in a moment of pressure. Vanessa, we heard Kirsty's story there. For you, just briefly, what was it about netball that took hold of your soul and grabbed you?
Hello, everyone. I love to share my story because it's very similar. I'm also the minister of fun. No, I'm joking. I started playing netball at a very young age, and I think in South Africa, netball was predominantly played and supported by universities. I got the opportunity to actually go to university and further my studies. As a result, I ended up studying to play netball, and I played netball to study, so it was quite a nice merger. Ended up getting my 2 degrees, and then I had to make a decision what to do next. Because at that stage, I retired in 2018, didn't have an opportunity to play professionally and keep on playing professionally after having a stint in England and in Australia. I decided to go into broadcast after, I think it pretty much started 2011 World Cup. I was appalled that in South Africa back then, people did not know it was the Netball World Cup, and I was part of that team. So Mareike Holtzhausen and Amanda Maynard were there, and I started phoning radio stations to go, hi, this is Vanessa, you don't know me, but I'm part of the netball team. We're going to the Netball World Cup in Singapore. Do you mind doing an interview with our captain? Thank you very much, here's a number. And that was a start. So looking back at when I was a player, just starting to create awareness as much as I can, I had an opportunity to then go into lifestyle broadcast. So I got invited to be on Dancing with the Stars. Anybody knows that? Thank you. I cha-cha'd and I waltzed.
Can I just point something out? You said to me, whatever you do,
don't say it. I know. I just thought, you know what, I'm sounding boring to myself.
So you can charge
I feel sorry I just thought I'd throw it in there just to entertain you all because I'm bored with my own voice already. So I did Dancing with the Stars as a netball player, and I don't think that's ever happened before, so I needed to represent. They finally, after years and years of looking for a tall enough counterpart dancer, they found one, so that was wonderful. He's currently in the UK as well. We're not going to talk about that, but he's doing really well. Then after that, I got an opportunity to go into lifestyle broadcast because we didn't have the means to. So SuperSport did Varsity Cup netball, and we did. TNL was kind of there, but it was only like the finals were broadcasted, so it wasn't the full package. I did a dating show, hosted a dating show, one of the biggest ones in Afrikaans TV.
Which prepared you for today.
Obviously. And then I did The Biggest Loser. I was the host of The Biggest Loser South Africa and the Afrikaans community as well. And then I did a lifestyle travel program in Japan for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. And that's when I think SuperSport were like, oh, we like this girl. She can talk and not seem like a complete idiot. Where now I'm with SuperSport on a permanent basis. I'm one of 4 ambassadors for SuperSport creating content. Stop it. Just see if you dance more. Yeah, okay, continue, please. But if you start dancing, see what happens, Caroline. I'm trying to get you on the dance floor. But then I think, yeah, now with SuperSport, I'm producing. I produced the Netball World Cup build-up show. I got that opportunity. So winning from presenter or analyst, commentator, all of that, to now producing and looking to create more content. And I'm now not only working on netball, but also going to the Rugby World Cup in France, doing a lot of other sports. So I'm really being privileged, where it started with netball as a young athlete, getting that opportunity to talk about the sport and the passion that I love so much. And that's something I can do forever, is talk about netball. So you need to stop me, because if I start now, switch it off.
We need to hear from the new finance director.
Go, Stace.
Stacey, you haven't done Dancing with the Stars yet. It is but a step away.
Strictly is waiting.
Yeah, Strictly is waiting. If you ever come home. For you, we're all taught when you grow up in the UK, or in England in particular, okay, we're going to play netball as a young girl. That is changing now, and very much football is the offer for girls and boys as well, when you go straight into school. But for you, was that the thing? Was it, right, going to get on those cold courts on October morning when I want to be inside?
I was really nervous that you were going to ask me about how I got into sport, because I was a reluctant netballer. I didn't lie when I stood up yesterday and said netball changed my life, but my journey into it was slightly different. I didn't start playing netball until I was 14, which is quite old, especially for lots of my former Australian teammates who have been playing since they were 4 or 5, which explains why they're world beaters. But I played lots of different sports. I did basketball at school. My dad was a professional footballer. He has 2 daughters, so I was his honorary son. And I played football as well. Was not good at it at all, but was very determined, which is how I would just describe myself in general. Happy to do the hard work. And just a very chance meeting with a coach who changed my life. Put me on to netball, made me realise that if I invested in myself as much as she was invested in me, that I could achieve great things. And yeah, she sold me a dream, and it worked out pretty well.
You've done it right. You've done it right. I mean, if she gets a clap for dancing, I think she gets Although we all know playing netball is just dancing with a bit more style on the court, right?
Yes. Who's watched some of the local domestic leagues in South Africa, the Telkom Netball League? So the girls actually, the teams have a rehearsed dance before they start playing, a full-on choreographed with music. So netball in South Africa is synonymous with dancing, and you'll see that with the World Cup. So just brace yourself.
I'm bracing myself for the rest of this conversation.
Yeah. I'm getting you a pair of high heels, and I'm going to make you dance.
No one needs to see me in high heels, particularly near that court. So it is netball that grasped us all. For me, not that you're that interested, but for me, watching you two develop and blossom on court has been one of the greatest joys. And you see it from the first moment. You see a debut in one of the domestic leagues, and then you see them turn up to the Commonwealth Games or the World Cup, and you realise that these young girls have become women in front of your eyes playing the sport that you love. So very different journeys for you both coming through, to the point where you are now. You're with SuperSport, and the joy of being here is that actually predominantly SuperSport is run, the Netball World Cup is run by brilliant women, right?
Yes, I think I spoke to Indrine Gruvier, so she's our executive producer for the Netball World Cup. She would have been here, she would have loved to be here, but she sent me instead, so I'm sorry for that. But Indrine told me that she started 22 years ago in broadcast, and it has been a very male-dominant arena. She said that where a couple of World Cups ago, you would probably see between 5 or 15 females working in broadcast behind the scenes. I'm talking camera operators, technical, sound engineers, graphics, all of that. Where now we've got almost 200 employed for the Netball World Cup, female employers. And I'm glad that we are clapping, and I'm glad that we're celebrating women in broadcast, and it's about time. But I did ask her, why now? Why did it take so long? And then she was very honest with me, and she said, Vanessa, it is a very male-dominant space. And I said, but everything's male-dominant, even sport's male-dominant. You need to Why is it male? Why is it female? It shouldn't be that. It should be sport. It should be broadcast, and then the right people with the right, what do you call it, skills, and that should be employed. And she said, you're completely right. And then just to give you a little bit of an idea, Supersport employed their first female truck driver in the beginning of the year. First one ever. I mean, that's the type of stuff that we were dealing with, because people would think that a camera operator should be male because they need to be strong and they need to be able to manage the camera. We've got female operators that are doing, can I say much better? Yeah? Sorry. But I'm not even just much better. They're holding their own and they're really thriving, giving that opportunity. And I think what I'm trying to say with Indrine Grivier and what she's trying to achieve with this all-female year for her movement is to give opportunity for females to also take up their space and to also have a prolonged environment that they can grow in. So it's not just getting an opportunity and hoping to get another one. This is now the platform, the standard that we are trying to create.
Opportunity is such a key word, and you respond to that word across broadcast within sport. Now, the Women's Football World Cup is on at the moment. The Ashes... Well, I said to you earlier, if Australia have to rely on the weather to win, then they're not that good, really, are they? But the Ashes is on at the moment. All right. Settle down. How to lose a room. Where are my England fans at? No, yeah, there you go. The boss is an England fan, right? So that's fine. Channel 7 in Australia had 3 times the audience for the Matildas, the women's football game opener, than they did for the first session of the 4th Test, Ashes men's cricket, which had never happened before. But it's opportunity. It's Channel 7 saying we're going to show it. It's Supersport putting on this channel that's showing the women's football, the netball as well, and giving that opportunity. I am fed up of people saying, oh, well, you've got to be good enough, or you've got to have enough eyeballs, or you've got to have enough sponsors. And the sport is good enough. The sport is brilliant. If you get up close and personal, I defy you not to love netball. So we have to give netball the opportunity to sing. I know, Stacey, that's one of the things you want to do right now is sing. No. There you go. But one of the areas you've been passionate about is this dual career. So when we talk about opportunity, a fear that I have is these brilliant business women off court, if they suddenly become professional and netball dominates their whole sphere, they don't have that other side to them. We all know an injury can happen. Kirsty Coventry was talking about it. We all know something can happen in your career that flips and switches. It happened that you were able to go out on the high that you wanted to, but it could have been so different, couldn't it? It's important, isn't it, that we ensure that these brilliant women have this rounded opportunity.
I'm not on. I completely agree. I feel incredibly privileged to have come through netball at a time of incredible change, but also to have been encouraged, pushed, tormented into managing a lifestyle that can coexist alongside being a netballer. So now the game has changed dramatically. You are able to have a career as a professional, and I was incredibly privileged to be able to do that for my last 6 years of my career in Australia. But I firmly believe the person that I am today is as a result of being able to manage and balance a life away from the court, and to be encouraged to do that from a really young age. I went to university, and the university that I chose to go to at the time was the only place that you could study full-time whilst also being a full-time netballer in England. And so they were creating change, but there was always the expectation that you were somebody away from the court, and that would add value to the athlete that you are, but also the person that you want to be outside of the sport. And I think as much as the game is going to continue to move forward, something that I was incredibly impressed to be a part of was the Australian Netball Players Association, and those players have a very clear vision and direction around who they want to be as athletes, and are very passionate about protecting their time whilst the sport continues to grow and move forward, but to also do that off of the court as well. And so it would be a luxury for you to throw hundreds and thousands of pounds at the netballers, and I'm sure that they would not say no. But I would advocate that the cohort of women that we see in roles that we are privileged to step into today, and also the players that are still out there on court who are doctors, lawyers, commercial professionals, are all the better for having done both.
Yeah, I don't know about how it operates around the rest of the world, but I know certainly in the UK, it seems to be the netballers that were keeping the hospitals going during COVID, the brilliant doctors. Dr. Layla Gusketh was in saving lives, then on a netball court as well, defending for her life too. Brilliant, brilliant people. The reason why I wanted to talk to you in particular about that, Stacey, is you've been very open through your blog and using your voice to talk about all sorts of things. And I think this is what makes you both such strong people on this stage right now, and your teammates around you, is this openness in conversation, talking about mental health, talking about sexuality. These areas that you talk about, do you think that happens, and if you're comfortable to talk about it too, do you think that happens because you have this career outside, you have this ability to talk, but also because netball's given you a voice?
Exactly right, you nailed that on the head. I think the rise of netball as a sport in general, the professionalism, the eyeballs, the commercial revenue that the game is able to pull in at the elite level, made me realise very quickly that the platform that I've been fortunate to be given through having an okay talent as a netballer gave me the opportunity to use it for something much more meaningful. I am so incredibly proud of the career that I was able to have as an athlete, but what I was very keen and clear on in my final few years as a netballer was that my impact off of the court, the person that I am and the values that I have, and what I would like to see reflected in the world around me is something that I want to advocate. I want to use the platform that I have for change to speak on the things that I feel incredibly strongly about, and to hopefully have people remember that impact, and hopefully the impact that I'll be able to make in my new role, much more than a couple of specky intercepts. There were one or two. Well.
But that's key when we talk about this unstoppable rise. You do unfortunately then become a target. When we were sat here, you're on social media. It's all about the Insta. I know you're filming everyone. You're all on
Content creation.
Content creation, thank you. But with that profile comes the knockers, the doubters.
Yep.
But at what stage, and you must be talking with other athletes about this now, Stacey, do we measure that rise, which is brilliant, and that profile, but support these athletes too at the spotlight that's going to come to them?
Firstly, I'm so sorry that through being a fantastic ambassador for sport in general, that gave people an avenue to attack you for something completely unreasonable. I think, unfortunately, with the increase in profile of our sport, it also opens up eyes and attention of people who are really willing to share their outrageous views, thoughts, feelings, and opinions. It's incredibly hard to filter those out. We are taught all the time as athletes to make sure that you have the appropriate security settings, filters, don't read into the social media, but when people seek you out and they are very determined to say something to your face behind a screen, it's really difficult to handle. And
you've had that happen?
Absolutely, yeah, all the time. Even now, which surprised me, as a netballer, I had put all of the appropriate strategies in place to protect myself from people having an opinion on my performance, which I don't mind so much, but even as a commentator, everybody is very willing to have their thoughts, feelings, and opinions on what it is that you say. And I am very proud to be an incredibly diverse person. I'm a proud bisexual woman. I'm mixed race, and I really lean into my difference and what makes me unique, but it also opens me up to people willing to share their alternative views and opinions. But as much as it's incredibly hurtful, it doesn't mean that I won't start banging the drum for diversity and for people to be exactly who they are and thrive in any environment that they want to.
Thank you.
Now, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not, I mean, you are a wonderful ambassador, and we're very proud of you as an ex-former teammate / netball player, so just keep on keeping on. I think with diversity, and I think with any climbing of the ladder, I think a lot of you sitting here had to, pave your way going forward, and I think in general, whether you're in sport, whether you're in administration, you're always going to get some sort of backlash, because you're going to the top, and what people tend to do is they don't necessarily want to see you there, they want to see themselves there or see someone else there, so they're going to try and drag you down. But I do believe, within my religion, I believe that God has a purpose for everyone, and there's enough sunshine for everyone to grab. So if you stay within your wholesomeness and try to just do what you can with the talents that you received, you will be blessed, and that's what I believe. But with the uprise of social media, the content and all of that, I think there is a lot of risk involved, good and bad, because now we can see, netball on social media, we can get so much positive feedback, we can hear what the people have to say in a very good way, but then it also comes with a lot of bad. And I think if we can try to manage that, also from a broadcasting point of view, a lot of people don't necessarily watch television, they follow the updates on Twitter or on social media, so it is quite a dual medium platform, and I think you guys are handling it very well. I've been on the brunt of it as well. And talk about my performance, talk about whatever you want, and I'll take that in. But when it starts, speculating about my relationships or my personal life, that's where I draw the line. But I think being a woman, you are exposed to that. And I think as a man, you get exposed to that. So it's about having a thick skin. And then something netball taught us is how to handle criticism. Because you're getting criticized constantly by your coach to say, you can do better. Even if you had the best game of your life, you can still do better.
Hey, social media has equality at the forefront because, yeah, you're right, men get abused too. It's one of those areas, though, that netball excels at. And here's the positive, because you go on and there's Scotland TikToking the life out of the dances. I've seen some of the umpires as well, also on TikTok, and it's shown that actually you great individuals have voices and you can connect directly, and I think it's the future of, it's here, it's the present, but it's also how we connect going forward. What you've done here with the Netball World Cup and engaging and introducing players and being that voice hits directly with the fans, showing the brilliant ceremony last night, the candle lighting ceremony. Seeing those players enjoy that moment, again, is a direct connection. You have made that handshake with the people that are out there watching that don't even know about netball yet, but you've connected with them, and now it's about hanging on to them. I want to leave with some positives before we have some questions from you, because this is the best moment for netball. When you land at Cape Town and you're greeted by those wonderful volunteers talking about the World Cup, by the singing, by the dancing, it's happening, and this is the perfect place for, we say, the unstoppable rise of women's sport. I think netball didn't need to have a rebirth, but it's growing, it's maturing here in South Africa. For you, Vanessa, you must be so incredibly proud of what you've seen so far and what's to come.
This was a dream, and I think it was something that Blanche and our Madam President, Tisila Molokwane, spoke about. I remember this back in just the conversation and how it's transformed into how now Cape Town is the host city and we're here, and I am so incredibly proud of every single one of the volunteers, of the administration, of the broadcast, of the technical, even our team, known as the World Cup champions of 2023. I'm just incredibly proud of what the sport has become to. So out of my experience, and I'm going to say this with a bit of controversialness, because as I played for 10 years for South Africa, retired in 2018, I never received a cent as a player. Now, having an opportunity like this, you have no idea what this has done to the netball future of South Africa. And I want to thank whoever made and whoever the decisions and everybody involved. Just thank you from a humble former Protea netball player, for what you're doing for the future of netball in South Africa.
Absolutely. And Stacey, seeing those contracted players for South Africa for the first time, going into camps, seeing, I mean, it's a bit worrying, right? If you're England, no longer looking over your shoulder at South Africa, they're reach the rearview mirror and going past. If you believe Vanessa, they're going to win it. Stacey, for you, this moment, how do you feel about where netball is?
I think we're so ambitious as a sport, and that's absolutely the place to sit in. And for me, certainly as a former athlete, and I think for all of us, because of our ambitions, we are constantly looking forward around what can we do better, how can the game be bigger, where is our room for improvement, exactly like Vanessa says, how can we make perfection. And I do think it's really valuable for learning and continuing to push the sport forward to take note of where we are now. Something that was said by Sue in her acceptance speech yesterday was around the importance of looking back and having an awareness around our history as a sport, where we've come from, how much change we have made in such a small period of time. I'm so proud and so privileged to be involved in a sport that continues to push boundaries and to not rest on its laurels, to change rules, to create friction, to be inclusive. And I have never been more proud or more passionate to have a stake in the game of netball. And I hope that we are really proud of what we've done and can sit in that for a few moments before we think about what's coming forward.
I just want to know, Caroline, how many World Cups have you done?
I did not agree to questioning.
This is now, the tables have turned.
No.
How many World Cups?
This is my fourth in broadcasting.
Fourth in broadcasting. So what's your experience like?
I bumped into two podcasters. I mean, that didn't exist. Two brilliant quarter-time podcasters in the media room. And they said, we're really hoping to be at every match, but there's limited seats. And, there are 300 media here. And I went, what? I remember being just the only one from the UK, but 300 media. To put that into some sort of perspective, I go to the Super Bowl for the BBC every year, and there's like 5,000 media there, but they're all there for the foot-long hot dogs, But it just shows the growth of this sport. It's a sport that was my first love, that got hold of my heart, never let go, that gave us that brilliant moment to smile in Australia for England at the Commonwealth Games that I will live off for the rest of my life. You can't not love it. So I think it's a perfect moment. It's now how we harness that handshake, that moment, and take it forward.